One of the largest collections of the museum is a collection of Uzbek painting. It fully reflects the complex and unique way of shaping the development of a national school, which is practically no more than a century old. Uzbek paintings in the museum collection is represented by a variety of trends and directions, from avant-garde and impressionistic works of the early 20th century to realistic mid-century, and of course, the works of artists of the new generation. Richard Zomer repeatedly worked at the end of the 19th century on request of the Russian Imperial Archaeological Commission in Turkestan, the master of architectural landscapes. His painting, The Bazaar in Samarkand, was created in 1897. The painting with documentary and vivid authenticity conveys the atmosphere of a hot day, the bustle of the bazaar, which is stretched stalls in the square in front of the legendary Bibi Hanum Mosque. It was one of the first paintings with Uzbek themes, which has been stored in the museum since 1927. National School Fine Arts formation logically happens in the 1920s and 30s. Artists who came from Russia to Uzbekistan purchased a second home and made a great contribution here, and they certainly contributed to the formation of this national school. Here is the good Uzbek avant-garde. You can see here works of Nikolaev, Karahan, early Tansekbayev, Kashin, and so on and so forth. And what a piece of art in graphics we have. What amazing drawings, which in general, in my opinion, have never been shown. The golden fund of Uzbek national art includes works by Alexander Volkov, an artist whose style and work are instantly recognizable. A prominent representative of the so-called Turkestan avant-garde and native of Fergana, he created here not only hundreds of paintings, but also established his own school. An era of amazing work, which he's saying is seen through his works. He did believe in the ideals of his era and personified all of his heroes precisely in movement and music. By watching his work, you can feel how the drums sound, the sound of karnai and surnai. Can you feel it? Colors are rhythm. These were extraordinary artists. It was a generation of unique personalities. One of them was Alexander Nikolaev, Ustomomin. He was Russian by nationality, but he accepted Islam in Uzbekistan. Student of the Patriarch of Kazimir Malevich's formalism, he diligently searched for his own style while closely studying the many-sided art of Uzbekistan. And it was not just a reverence for Eastern values, it was a way of realizing his truth. And in this love for the Muslim East, the whole genius of Ustomomin. Here in the museum are stored about 30 of his paintings, which are equated to the world classics. Dozens of monumental, famous impressionistic paintings by the greatest artist of the 20th century, Pavel Binkov, adorn the museum exposition. In 1928, when he was already a mature artist, he first came to Uzbekistan, first to Bukhara and Khiva, and then to Samarkand. He connected to the city and stayed there for good. He depicted majestic monuments and small, cozy courtyards. Very poetic and anxiously, the artist creates an image of Oriental woman. The portrait of a Tatar girl was created by the artist even before his arrival in Uzbekistan, but he did not part with it all of his life. What prompted him to do this? He did not leave an answer to this question. One of the latest masterpieces of the artist, The Girl with Tatar. It seemed to be a painter enjoying the wealth of exquisite colors and the game of sun glare. It is hard to imagine that this life-affirming picture was painted by a seriously ill artist, literally 2 years before his death. An integral part of the life of Pavel Binkov was the pedagogical activity, to which he gave almost 40 years. Our respondents, the present academicians of the Academy of Arts of Uzbekistan, Javlon Umarbekov and Bahadir Jalalov, also went through the Binkov school in the widest sense of the word. Entire galaxy of magnificent artists who discovered the East were able to synthesize their sense of the East with the creative phenomena of their time, and as a result of this museum received the gift of magnificent works. Chingiz Akhmarov, an outstanding master of monumental culture, belonged to the first generation of artists of Uzbekistan. His canvases in the Museum of Art of Uzbekistan are a series of perfectly harmonious images of the Eastern period. He captured playing and dancing beauties as if poems of Khosrav Dehlavi and Hafiz, who came to us from the pages of the tales of 1001 Nights. Literally every canvas of the artist seemed to breathe the classics of Eastern culture. He lived a great paradoxical life, created hundreds of beautiful beauties, but his heart belonged to only one woman, Shamsiroy Hasanova. A talented painter, she was the first Uzbek artist and director of this museum. Her work was tragically interrupted by an incurable disease. She died young at 39 years old. In her gallery of portraits of great Uzbek poets Uvaisi and Zebin Sobegem, this is the lyrical confession of a great artist. A new stage of art of Uzbekistan is associated with the name of Rahim Ahmed. An outstanding portrait painter, he created works that immediately became classics of Uzbek painting. The Morning of Motherhood, in this large composition, is literally physically perceptible both to the coolness of the early morning and the transparency of the air of the mountain village and peace and quiet. This is definitely one of the iconic works of the early 60s of the last century. It is impossible to pass over in silence the creative work of Ural Tansikbayev, in his youth a bright representative of the Turkestan avant-garde, and in more mature years he creates pacified epic landscapes. There is a further emancipation of art, when the creative tradition is understood alternatively, when it is already synthesized in a new aspect. Let's say the East and the West are turning to the avant-garde art of the 20s, and this also enriches the visual arts. Creativity of Javlon Umarbekov, one of the individual pages of the history of painting in Uzbekistan. From his first works, he declares himself as an outstanding master, intrigued with the history of civilization. The fame of an outstanding artist brought him hundreds of works that were exhibited in Russia and in Europe, in the United States of America, and in the countries of the Middle East. His large canvas, The Homo sapiens, is a philosophical reflection on the paths of reason and the intersection of cultures of the East and the West. I learned a lot through this museum. I often come here to my favorite artists. Many years later, I myself became a member of this team, and my paintings were also displayed as exhibits of the fine arts of Uzbekistan. Javlon Umarbekov is one of the outstanding masters of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, because he has best trends that artists of the 20s have absorbed to glorify the spirit of the times. He's a master virtuoso painter, virtuoso artist. Bahadur Jalalov also became a living classic of Uzbek painting. The works of the artists are represented in the collections of the museum, created in the style of metaphors and parables.